Welcome back to Families in Action right here on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. Today with Cary Quashen, we're talking about the Parents' Bill of Rights. And hey, if you'd like to call and chime in on this one, this is a biggie. Call 661-298-5487. One more time, that's 661-298-5487. 5487. Don't be shy. Cary loves to hear from our listeners.
I do, even if you disagree or whatever. If you want to add to some comments to it, feel free to call. And by the way, we do as parents have rights.
They do. Now we've already.
We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. we talked about number one. You have the right not to explain your behavior. Number two, you have the right to change your mind.
But think about that for a second. How many times do your kids really work you over? They call you at work, right? They beat you up. Please, 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 please. Okay. And then you think about it. Wait a minute. That's not a good idea. And you call your kid up and you say, no, it doesn't sound like a good idea to me. And the kid says, that's not fair. If they want fair, they can go to Pomona. Life's not always fair. If we have a chance to think about a decision we made and all of a sudden we feel it's not a good idea, not safe or something like that, we as parents have the right to change our minds.
And should.
And should.
I mean, if you suddenly realize that, hey, I made a bad decision here, we need to do this a little differently, make the change. You don't have to say, but my kid is going to get upset. Well, okay, they can get unupset.
Exactly.
Number three, you have the right to express your feelings. You may have been told that you should not get angry or tell your child.
Is that true? Are we allowed to get angry at our kids?
Of course.
We absolutely are. But, no, I don't like but. But erases everything before it. However, we need to get angry appropriately.
Of course, yes. Flying into a violent rage, no. But getting upset, we're humans. We get upset.
Giving your kid a consequence when you're steaming mad doesn't always work either.
You're
grounded for a year and then 3 hours later, get out of here. So we really have to kind of pay attention.
I have to tell you a funny story. I may have told this before, but you just said something. You said if you're angry, if you're a parent and you're angry, it's better to wait until you cool down a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
My father got very upset with me one time while he was watching Gunsmoke on television. He said, sit down and don't say another word. I'll deal with you at the end of this program. So I had to sit through 20 minutes of Gunsmoke.
Makes perfect sense to me, though.
It sure taught me a lesson.
And when I do my parenting classes, I always suggest that don't give consequences when you're angry.
No.
Take a breather, relax, because the consequences really got to meet the crime. I mean, if your kid comes home an hour late and you take the door off, inappropriate. If your kid is sitting in his room smoking dope, writing poetry about dying and death, take the door off. You want to be able to watch. So those kind of little things, the crime got to meet the consequence got to meet the crime. Also, I believe in short-term consequences. Just so everybody knows, short-term consequences work great. Long-term consequences backfire. So, I mean, you could take, if you have a 15-year-old daughter or son and you take the phone away for one day, it's like life's over.
Right. But when you say short-term consequences, you don't mean if you tell your child this is going to be in effect for a minimum of a week.
Well, then you better stick to that.
Then you probably stick to that because if you take them off, then they're going to say, well, Dad's not going to. Yeah. Now, the next part of this, expressing your feelings, Cary, you have a wonderful story to tell about this.
Oh, I love it. You
have the right to express your feelings. And some parents think that they're not supposed to tell their child that they love them in public.
It's really sad. Really sad. At the end of my groups, I always leave time for announcements. Parents can bring their kids out and say, I love you, I'm proud of you, and that kind of stuff. So many parents come up to me and say, I really want to take my kid out, but I was too embarrassed. If anyone's ever too embarrassed or ashamed to say, I love you to somebody that you love, especially your son, daughter, mother, father, uncle, aunt, grandparents, or whatever it is, shame on you. Really. And then I hear this from parents all the time. I can't talk to my kid. We don't, there's no I love yous or anything. But that's a choice we make as parents. When our kids say, please don't say you love me in public, and we go, okay, boy, is that a mistake.
How did you handle that, Cary?
Oh, I remember. I talk all this tough love stuff, as you know, right? But,
Yeah.
But really, I'm a big old marshmallow. At the end of the day, when I get home at night.
But don't tell anybody.
Yeah, but don't
Let's
tell
keep that
anybody.
quiet. Just between you and I.
Just
We don't
between
want...
you and me. So when I get home at night, even when my kids were all young, right, I would walk in the house. I would go into each one of their beds, lay down with them, kiss them on the head, tell them I love them, if they were awake or not, or sing them a song or whatever it is that I tell them a story that I make up, right? And I did this always. And one day I was taking one of my kids to school. I won't mention his name. and he gets out of the car and I went, "Hey, I love you." And he looked at me really weird because there was a lot of people there, right? And this is elementary school. So then that night I'm laying in bed with him and he says, "Hey, Dad, do me a favor." I said, "What's that?" He says, "When you take me to school, don't do that." I said, "Don't do what?" He said, "Don't say you love me in front of my friends. That embarrasses me." So, bang, that was like a knife in the heart. It really was. So I said, "Okay, I'm sorry." And I laid in bed and it hurt my feelings. And I said, "Okay." And I was thinking all night long. So I drove him to school. He gets out of the car. I don't say anything. Walks past the principal, the crossing guard, and all these people. Now I'm pounding on the horn. Everybody's looking, and he looks at me, and I go, "I love you." It was hysterical. I jumped in my car and said, "Gotcha, sucker."
There you go.
and I picked him up that day, and he jumped in, he gave me a hug and kissed me. He said, "Dad, you can say you love me whenever you want." I said, "I'm going to anyways."
There you go.
It's a choice we make.
Well, here, this reads as follows. Feelings not expressed tend to putrefy. And how would you like it if something happened and terrible, and suddenly your son was gone or your daughter was gone, and you didn't get to say, "I love you"? Oh, what a thing to live with.
After every phone conversation I have with my kids, I end it with "I love you."
You got it.
After every single one. Because you never know. And because I do love them, and I want them to know that. And I'll tell you what, if it's an embarrassment to them, that's their problem. It's not mine. I love them. They're going to know it. And the other thing is, I'm one of those kind of people too. If somebody keeps pissing me off or hurt my feelings, my kids or anyone, I can do something stupid or say something stupid.
Right.
So that means when somebody's saying something that's bothering me, I'm going to let them know. Because let's say, take this cup for instance, and you keep throwing stuff in it, right?
Put stuff
if you don't empty it, it's going to overflow. That's what happens to us. If we keep stuffing stuff down, eventually we're going to blow it. So we have to let people know how we feel.
And when you blow it, it won't be in a good way either.
No, or we'll take it out on ourselves.
Now, we have to move along because we've got a bunch of these.
We do.
Here's number 4. You have the right to a drug-free home. This is non-negotiable. If someone insists that they be allowed to be loaded in your home, you have the right to ask them to leave. There is no reasoning with someone when they are loaded. Boy, don't we know that one.
Pick it apart just a little bit, I would suggest that I have to change this one because we should never throw anybody out when they're drunk or high or loaded. But we do have, it's our home. Our home needs to be our palace and our sanctuary.
And all it's saying really is you have the right to ask them to leave.
Right. And the other thing is I get calls all the time from people and they're fighting with their kids and I'm going, "What's on? What's going on?" I already know. They're loaded. Well, why are you arguing with them?
Yeah.
When you're arguing with somebody that's drunk or high, they're not even going to remember it.
Forget it.
Make sure they're safe and deal with it tomorrow.
They love to argue with you, but they're not going to remember it.
No, so you're arguing with an alcohol or a drug. It's not going to.
But you have the right to a drug-free home.
That you do.
Number 5, you have the right to determine who may enter your home.
Keep going.
Realistic, you cannot control who your children's friends are, but you can control who can enter your home. There's no reason to have active gang members, practicing addicts, alcoholics, thieves, or rude individuals in your home. The "at least they are where I can keep an eye on them" philosophy is a compromise that most parents will live to regret.
Boy, do I see that all the time. I want them all here. And then I can watch them. So they smoke dope in the back garage and you're okay with it. You're drinking. By the way, if they're going to drink, they're going to drink in my house, nowhere else. What message are you giving your kid? Really, think about that. You think they're only going to do it in your house if you say that? No. So really, we need to pay attention to that. And why would you want a rude person in your house anyways? If somebody's coming in your house and they're nasty, mean, rude, using drugs, or whatever the deal is, I surely wouldn't want them in my house.
No, and you have a right to say to your child, away from that person, hey, really don't want you to bring so and so here anymore.
No, and we can,
whether they're using foul language or whatever they're doing in your home, you have a right to say no. That's not what we're going to do here.
I have another kid at group, and she's 17, and she's been clean and sober for a while, and this guy that she likes is kind of off and on sober, and he's 18, and the mother said, if you want to come in my house and see my kid, there's a drug test. You are not going to be in this house if you're using drugs anymore. And the kid decided to take the drug test, and he's doing well. But we have rights.
We do.
We should not have people that are bad influences on us or our children around us or our children.
That's right. Number 6, you have the right to impose consequences when household rules are violated. This does not mean abusing your child, nor does it mean making threats that you do not intend to carry out or cannot carry out. Trust and privileges are earned, and you have the right to take them away.
But I've been good for 3 days. Why can't I stay out to midnight? I haven't done anything wrong in 3 days.
When they do that, you can take away those privileges when your child fails to comply with the rules of the household.
Exactly. And realistically, you cannot control your child's friends and all that wonderful stuff, right?
Right.
It's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't hang out with Mike. Okay, Dad. And they go to school. Who are they going to hang out with?
Mike.
So there's certain things. We got to pick battles when we're dealing with our kids that we can control. And the other thing is, if we're going to impose a consequence, we talked about that earlier, and we're going to ground somebody for a week, they need to be grounded for a week.
Yes.
Think about it. Well, you're grounded for a week, and 2 days later you're doing so good you go take care of business. What message really are we giving our kid? That's why I really believe short-term consequences are better, because we can live up to short-term consequences.
What we did in our household is at the end of the consequence, whenever the time came to end the consequence, if things had worked out, we literally sat down with our child and we said, okay, now why was it that this happened?
Right.
What did you do to cause this to happen? What are you going to do differently so it doesn't happen again? Okay, you're no longer on restriction. You're no longer not allowed to do this or whatever it was.
Right.
But we could actually sit down instead of the kid coming in saying, hey, it's the 6th day. I'm able to go do that. Well, let's sit down and have a little conversation.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. Hey, once again, let's hit that phone number, 661-298-5487. You're invited to join us here as we talk about the Parents' Bill of Rights.
And the other thing is, please don't make promises or threats you're not going to keep.
No.
I mean, I have rehabs. You know how many times I hear parents say to the kids, if you in an outpatient, if you have one more dirty test, I'm going to put you in rehab. And they have 3 more dirty tests. We throw them out of outpatient because they won't stay clean, and parents won't do what they say.
Right.
So you got to, if you're going to say something, you got to do it. You got to do it.
No has to mean no.
No has to mean no. Yes is yes, and maybe means maybe. But you got to be real serious when kids they need good definitions. They need to know what you mean.
Number 7, you have the right to say no. You do not have to give your child money because they need cigarettes. You do not have to allow them to stay out past midnight on school nights. You do not have to give up the keys to the car.
What's curfew?
Whatever you set.
No, I mean, for a kid under 18, what's the legal curfew? It's 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
What's curfew on Friday nights? 10 p.m. How about Saturday nights? 10 p.m. That's curfew. Now, if your child is going to a movie or a friend's house and comes home and is doing nothing wrong, chances are they're not going to do anything. But if they're hanging out at 7-Eleven or the park at 11 p.m., they're probably going to get a ticket for curfew, and they're going to have to go to court and all that kinds of stuff, right? So it's kind of, that's curfew. It's 10 o'clock. And by the way, if you have a 15 or 16-year-old kid, they shouldn't be out at 3 in the morning. Anyways.
No, nothing good happens at that time.
Nothing good comes out of that.
No. Your no has to be no. If you say no, you have to mean it. Otherwise, you're going to say, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. It means nothing.
I was at the movie theater about 6 months ago, and 10 o'clock came, and all of a sudden there was about 5 or 6 sheriffs, and they were just swarming it, ticketing people.
That's good.
So
actually.
I'm just saying, you got to be
better
careful.
to nip it in the bud there than to have something going on outside.
And by the way, they're giving plenty of tickets for tobacco right now to young kids under 18.
That's also a good thing.
So just parents understand that if your kids are out there and they're smoking and they're out past late, you're going to probably end up in court.
It's okay to say no. Number 8, you have the right to set limits without regard for what other parents do. Oh, I love this one. This is what was written. Someday I will find this mythical parent that allows their child to do anything they want and ask them to leave the planet.
I met many parents that are allowed to do that. I mean, hey, you know what? There's a lot of imperfect parents up here, everywhere. There's parents that smoke dope with their kids. There's parents that drink with their kids, right?
Right.
There's parents that just really are in no way, shape, or form able to be a parent. They're just buddies.
And there's one other possibility here. When your child says that, but Joe's mom lets her, you can never be sure if Joe's mom exists, or even if she does exist, that there is a reason to assume that her style of parenting is superior to your own.
When my kid used to tell me, everybody else can, I said, dads are us. Call dads or us. Maybe you could change me.
There you go. There you go. I heard that one too, and we always had the same response, and that is, it doesn't matter. We're not.
That's exactly right. What's good for them is not good for me.
Number 9, you have a right to privacy. Really? You have the right to your own private possessions and do not have to account to your child about your inner thinking or feelings. Again, what is that saying? You have a right to be a person.
You have a right to be who you are.
So you don't get caught up in all this stuff and just the only focus is on your child. That can't be healthy for you.
No.
Number 10, you have the right to your own life.
Say that again.
You have a right to your own life.
Keep going, because this is important.
Although being a parent is a primary role in your life, it is unhealthy for it to be your only role. You have the right to your own friends, your own work, your own hobbies, your own beliefs, your own intimate relationships. You do not need your child's approval.
You know, there's so many parents that I've dealt with in the last 30-something years that come to group, single moms that hasn't dated in 10 years, single dads that hasn't dated in 10 years, that their whole focus is just taking care of going to work, coming home, taking care of the kid, going to work, coming home, taking care of the kid. What happens when the kid grows up and moves out?
I would say that the empty nest syndrome would be pretty hard on that parent.
We get them sometimes in our behavioral health unit. Have you ever been on a plane and the plane's getting ready to take off and the flight attendant will say things like, if you're traveling with a small child and there's an oxygen change and the mask fall, please put your mask on first. There's a specific reason for that. If we're not okay, if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not strong, how can we take care of anyone else?
Exactly.
So you got to be able to take care of yourself. And by the way, being a parent and doing all these rules that we're saying, it's a whole lot more than that. It's allowing kids to know there's more to life than work and raising kids, that there's date night and fun night and those kinds of things that we are obligated to teach our kid.
That's right. And if you're all wiped out and exhausted from being involved in all of this drama that's going around you, then you can't make good decisions yourself. So these decisions you make become very poor. You're not strong enough to stand up there when they're saying, but please, but please, but please, but please, and you're going to throw your hands up in the air and say, do whatever you want. I'm too tired to fight with you.
Right. And you get old fast.
Yeah.
You get sick. You get alcohol problems,
you get worn out.
Problems. You get so much comes with it. You have to take care of yourself. You have to. I was in a grief recovery training one. There was a 3-day grueling training, one of the hardest trainings I've been in, right? And somewhere towards the end of it, he put us on silence. He wanted us all to think, and he comes in the room. He says, okay, everybody write down 10 things you like to do.
There you go.
And we all looked at each other. A lot of people had a hard time figuring out 10 things.
Oh, my goodness.
And then he said, when was the last time you'd done any of it?
Oh, wow.
Because so many of us are so busy taking care of our kids, work, business, home, we forget to take care of ourselves.
Let's get in one more. This is number 11. We have 12. So let's get in one more. You have the right to inquire about your child's behavior. Parents often become afraid to ask their child about unusual behavior or even a day they were, because they're unresponsive to them and they may come back at their parent with psychotic rage.
Pretty simple. Why are you late? Why don't you just leave me alone? I mean, that kind of stuff. Remember that a good defense is a good offense. So when they're attacking, they're just trying to get away from the question.
Right.
And also, when you have a 2-year-old or a 6-month baby, when they want something, they want milk if they're 6 months, they throw a temper tantrum.
Or they cry.
And
because that's what they know how to do.
And they're 2, they throw a temper tantrum. Yeah. When they're 16, they throw temper tantrums, but it's loud and scary.
Right.
But it's still a temper tantrum. So let them throw their temper tantrum. Let the dust settle and go back to where you were. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm here with my co-host, Michael Duwarty. And, hey, we're doing the Parents' Bill of Rights, huh?
That's right. There are
Parents,
12 of
you
them.
do have rights.
Oh, boy, do they ever.
A lot more than 12. We're just
That's
kind of giving some basics that I'll tell you, when I read these things and go over them in groups and stuff, parents go, wow. Yeah, it's pretty amazing because they don't know.
Well, number 12 on the list we've been reading is you have the right to parent your child. Ooh, think of that. Some parents fear if they parent their child, they will lose them, and they often seek to be their child's friend, or worse yet, they basically turn their child into a parent, and they have to seek their child's approval for everything they do. Ooh, parenting is not a bad thing. In addition to setting limits which are often resisted, parenting involves showing love, being a source of experience, providing safety and shelter, and so much more.
Don't you wish? You know, it's kind of crazy, but if you want to drive a car, you have to do what?
You have to get a license.
In order to get a license, you have to do what?
You have to study a test and take a test.
If you want to have a baby, what do you got to do?
Have nothing. Well, you have to have a baby.
If you want to be a mom or a dad, what do you got to do? Nothing.
Nothing.
So it's kind of one of those kind of things that we hear it all the time. Oh, I don't want to act like my mother or my father, but we do.
Yeah, we do.
Number one, or we try to do it so different. But a lot of times we as parents get lost. Situations come up that we just don't know what to do. So what we're also saying is reach out. Right. Talk to people. There's many organizations, especially here in Santa Clarita, we got Action that meets every Tuesday night at Canyon High School. It's a parenting class. The sheriff's department in the city puts on many parenting classes up here. The Child and Family Center. We got so much stuff here in Santa Clarita.
Oh yeah.
That if we really needed to reach out, it's not that hard. But it is. I mean, I was talking to a parent last week that had a real crisis with their kid, right? And this was on a Thursday. She did not know what to do, so she told her kid, "You know what I'm going to do? Nothing. You're going to get consequences, but I'm going to go to group on Tuesday, discuss it with my other parents, and then you'll get your consequence."
Oh, perfect.
Isn't that perfect?
That's absolutely excellent.
I thought that was brilliant.
It was.
I mean, she's buying herself some time. She didn't want to give any real consequences because she wasn't sure what to do. The kid needed consequences.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to think about this for a little bit.
No. And that's the magic of support groups.
It is. And, and there's so many places you can go. Family, friends, and like you said, support groups and Action Parenting. That's perfect.
I think a lot of reasons that parent groups are so important is because when we're having crises at home, everybody wants to tell us what we're doing wrong. Families judge us.
Yeah. Oh, well, sure.
I mean, our families judge us. So the good thing about support groups is nobody judges. Everyone's been there. So the advice that you're going to get is from people that has been through it. They're not going to judge.
I've got a couple of things I want to read here before we close out,
Sure.
Cary. This is great. As a parent, these are some of the things we haven't talked about, but did you know that you have the right to a night's sleep without worrying about where your child is, being awakened by your child coming in drunk, stoned, or whatever? You have the right to a night's sleep without phone emergencies from police, hospitals, stranded family members. You have a right to live in a clean house. Expect cooperation and courtesy in your home. Expect responsible behavior from your child in your family, regardless of age. And you have the right to stop paying others fines. Oh, it goes on and on, Cary. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
It goes on and on and on. Remember this. And I know because we get you. You come to our groups, parents, when your kids are out of control. I get it, the self-esteem and the sadness that's going on at home. But remember this. For an adolescent that is using drugs, having problems with you, having crises at school, running away, it is impossible for that kid to really be happy.
Oh, my goodness, heavens no.
So all that other stuff is really a cry for help, and we need to reach out and get some help and not just say, oh, he's just going through a phase.
Well, what's the phone number over there at Action?
Oh,
Cary?
you can always call us, 6617. I'll give you my cell number. It's,
Okay.
It's 800-367-8336.
Let's give that number out one more time.
800-367-8336. And remember, there's a lot of other places up here that you can reach out for help, too.
What happens if they call that number, though?
They will definitely talk to a trained specialist that will be able to give them advice and send them in a direction that would be best for them.
That's good. That's what you do over there at Action.
That's what we do.
I mean, you don't do everything, but you know where to send people to get things, right?
Exactly. Hey, yeah, some things just work for some different things might work for
Right.
different people, but we know at least a direction. And on that note, Mike, guess what time it is?
It's time for us to say toodaloo.
It is. I think we're getting that hey, it's over, guys. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'll let you close it.
All right. Hey, join us again.
We should actually let him close it. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, he bowed out of that really quickly.
I know, that was good.
Anyway, Justin, thank you for what you do. This is Families in Action right here on KHTS AM 1220. Join us next Monday, same time, and we'll be here.